So I call this, and we're recording, as the lady just told us. So good morning, everybody. I call this a meeting of the Concord Middle School Building Committee to order Thursday, January 26th. And I will do a roll call. Alexa Anderson.
Present.
Court Booth.
Present.
Heather Bout.
Hello.
Frank Cannon. I see you, Frank. Justin Cameron. Okay. Rob, let's see, Peter Fishalis. Peter's connecting to audio. I see him. Peter, you're here.
I am.
Okay. Don Garelio.
Present.
Lori Hunter. Lori is going to be connecting from a conference, so I think she'll be with us eventually. Matt Johnson.
Present.
Carrie LaFleur. Not a voting member. Pat Nelson, I'm here. Chris Popov. Charlie Parker.
Here.
Matt Root.
Here.
And Stephen Stashewski.
I'm here.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, the first order of business is to say what a great town meeting that was and to thank everybody for all their hard work over these past this past year, I would say, of pulling together a project that the town was comfortable with and was able to pass at town meeting, and we will look forward to the vote in February. And thank you to our professionals who attended. We didn't have to call on you. I was glad we didn't. But I was very happy to have you there in case we needed some specific answers to the questions that only our professionals could provide. So thank you, everybody. First order of business is the approval of the meeting minutes from December 15th, 2022. Did anyone spot anything that they had questions about or concerns? Okay, so does anyone want to move that we approve those minutes?
Move to accept.
Okay. Once again, I forget the protocol. I'm going to call in order, right? Call
Need a
for vote.
second,
Yes.
Pat?
I
Oh,
seconded. Sorry, it's Dawn. I seconded. Pat, you just roll call vote.
Okay, Alexa,
Yes.
Court,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Frank.
Frank's
Yes.
put his hand up. It looks like a yes. His screen's
Yeah.
kind of funny.
Yeah. Peter Fishalis,
Yes.
Don
Yes.
Garelio, Lori Hunter, Matt Johnson.
Yes.
Oh, hi, Lori.
Aye.
Morning.
Pat Nelson, yes. Charlie Parker,
Yes.
Matt Root,
Yes.
and Stephen Stashewski.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Lori, glad to have you with us. I know you're on you're in a conference, but what I said at the beginning was a congratulations on the town meeting and thanked everybody for all their hard work, and you were definitely included in that. Thank you.
Well, thanks. And I'll just reiterate that team effort for sure.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I will just say that I got a lot of comments from people at town meeting about how clear the information was and their appreciation of the hard work that this committee has done on behalf of the town. Okay, correspondence.
Yes. Okay. So since last time, which was a little under 2 weeks ago, we had 9 emails that went to the whole committee. A variety, mostly questions, some appreciation, a couple of questions about the project itself, which the chairs answered, a couple of logistic questions, one because we had trouble starting one of our Zooms, a couple of questions about town meeting, some questions about solar that Dawn answered. Again, probably 4 logistic about town meeting, and then a couple, let's see, 2 that we're very appreciative of our efforts at town meeting and our efforts at the coffees, which is really nice. And the last one was marketing to us, so never mind that. That's it.
Hey, thank you. Good morning, Chris. I see you've joined us. Okay, communication update, any?
Oh yeah, and there's really not much to update on communications other than we had a lot of people show up for town meeting, which was great. Over 1,000. But no events since then, and we're not planning events like last time, like a year ago. We're not planning extra events between town meeting and election. We figured we've done all of our outreach. People can certainly reach out to us with any questions. And we now just want to encourage people to show up to vote on February 16th.
Thank you. Okay, Ian, the OPM update.
Great. Thanks, Pat. Before we get started, I want to introduce someone from our team. So Jonathan Teixeira is joining us today. He's going to be coming on as the project manager for the project. We had planned on bringing on a PM at a certain point in time. And so Jonathan has been working with us in the background on pre-qualification process. He's done some plan reviews. He's getting familiar with the project and is going to be stepping in as the project manager moving forward with the bid phase and the construction phase. So I just wanted to welcome Jonathan to the team and introduce him to you guys.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Jonathan. Welcome.
Hi, Jonathan. Welcome.
Otherwise, our team is the same.
Pat, question if I might.
Yes.
Jonathan, can you tell us, does this constitute an add to the team, or is there some internal change that we should know about because you're coming in? Thank you for coming in.
My understanding is Ian will kind of phase out of pre-construction and I will phase into construction.
I see. Can you give us 30 seconds about you?
Sure. I've been a commercial construction project manager for just about 18 years. Previous to coming to Hill about 2 years ago, I was running commercial construction projects. I worked for Nauset Construction in Needham and Cutler Associates in Worcester, basically building projects such as multi-unit residential, assisted livings, healthcare facilities, private schools, athletic facilities, things like that. So about 2 years ago, April of 21, I made a career shift to the owner project manager side. And since then, I've overseen the Millbury Shaw Elementary School project, which is actually where I still am. And excited to be getting involved with this one. It's just beginning to get involved, like Ian said, with reviewing plans, the pre-qualification process. I'm looking forward to getting to 100% set of design documents and getting it bid.
Well, I'm sure we're going to use all of your talents to good advantage. Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
All right. So getting into business here, let me share my screen. We've got cash flow, budget update, pre-qualification, final report. And then looking at the alternates with you guys today and trying to get those ordered and finalized is the goal for today. So first things first, we'll take a look at the cash flow. This is the same format that you've seen. One thing that we've done differently here is we did update this per the town meeting that happened last week. So we increased the budget by 7.2 million. And so that's reflected in the cash flow and the budget summary with the caveat that we understand that there's a vote forthcoming on the 16th to formalize this. But so we're in January 2023. The expenditures are related to Hill, SMMA, and the commissioning agent HKF services for the previous month in the amount of $474,966, which brings us up to close to a $5.9 million total expenditures to date. And again, we've just run this out through the end of the job with the caveat that we need to go through the formal vote as well. So just wanted to show the project budget and cost summary real quick. I see some questions here. Was there questions on cash flow?
Matt?
Yeah, and who knows, maybe it'll come out in the next slide or two, but it seems to me at this stage, since we're approaching the end of this phase and that the billings have been significantly below budget, that we are technically below budget, or am I making an incorrect assumption?
It's just the difference between assumptions and what happened in actuality. You know, when we put together this cash flow, we try to assume that these certain billings are going to happen as we move throughout time. And sometimes there's variation between our assumptions and what actually happens, and that's you know, that's acceptable.
Yeah, I'm just thinking,
eyes,
of course, about the possibility that if this you know, design construction documents phase ends up costing less than we anticipated, could we essentially bank that difference towards construction?
Yeah, I mean, so for the designer services, it's a lump sum service. So when they complete the drawings and plans, then we pay them in full.
Okay, then
right?
my assumptions are
Yeah,
wrong. Never
yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Hills is a little different because we're on an hourly basis. And we
Yeah, but
we
that's
bill
not gonna add
for
up to that
hours
much.
used, right? Yeah. So and it's the same for the commissioning agent. They're essentially a lump sum contract as well. So you'll whatever you've committed, you will end up paying them at a certain point in time.
Chris, are you you're okay? Okay. And can you make your,
Like I'm gonna take Friday off next week.
okay, we've got someone who's needs to mute.
The date in there. It was like 30 minutes later. She emailed
Cynthia Rainey, can you please mute?
the day, which is normal. Pat.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ian, as large as you can make this is great.
Yep.
I may be the only one who can't see it. But thank you.
So this is our budget and cost summary, something that we've been managing and updating on a you know, weekly, monthly basis. And it goes into our monthly report, so you can find it there as well, but thought I would take a moment to go through it again. So our construction, you know, basically we had an initial budget of $100 million all in, and we've made updates along the way for the construction. So the approved budget reflects this is essentially the 90% estimate value here that was voted on. The designer services were increased last year as it was voted on. So no changes there this time around. The same with the administrative costs for OPM and commissioning agent. Those were set in stone last year from a budget standpoint. Same with FF&E. The only other change on here is the construction contingency. It's a function of the construction budget. It's 5% of the construction budget, so that that increased. The big contingency remained the same. The owner's soft cost contingency remained the same. And then ultimately you've got the total project cost here with including the feasibility and schematic design phase, which is the 1.5 million that was committed up front. So this is a big picture look at how we track costs on a project. And this is how we do it on every project that we run. So just a comprehensive look at finances and what's been budgeted, what's been committed to date, which is 12.8 million through essentially all the professional services contracts to date. And then gives you the expenditures, which ties out to the cash flow. And you have a balance to spend as well, 105.6. So Charlie.
Hi, Ian.
Yep.
You normally see all the construction contingency money spent on your projects?
It varies, right? Each project is unique. So there are projects in which, you run into unforeseen conditions and things that just weren't feasible to build one way or another, and change orders as a result of that. There's many different reasons that you could utilize construction contingency. So there are jobs in which it gets down to the wire and you end up using the majority of the construction contingency. There are jobs that you give a considerable amount of contingency back, but 5% is what we're comfortable with holding and what we typically hold on jobs, just for the unknown that can happen throughout construction.
So if you are, let's say we're $1 million under on that, does that come back to the town?
Yes. Yeah. Any unspent contingency money goes back to the town at the end of the project.
Okay.
Yep.
Matt, I see your hand up.
Yeah, so if you look at that 111,516 there is the total project, and then you back out the 1.5 for the schematic design phase, you end up, I believe, at 109.9 something, right? Or even
should be 110,516, right?
110,016, right?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
correct.
that's the total author.
Sorry. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get at. Okay, and then was the 1.5 to the dollar spent? Because I'm trying to get back to the 109,726 that I think we had been looking at before.
Yeah, the one
isn't that the difference between the actual spend at the feasibility and schematic design versus the budgeted at that? I just wonder, what is the actual? Is it still 109,726, or is it?
Ian, my understanding is that the $1.5 million was a committed cost. It came down to the $1.5 million and everything was closed out, I believe.
That's right.
Yeah, just trying to understand that 109,726 last time versus now, if you back this out, 110,016.
Yeah, so to answer the first question, the 1.5 was committed and spent for feasibility and schematic design. So that's accounted for. If you back that out, it gets you to 110,016, which matches the initial vote of 102,816,000 plus the 7.2 million. So we made this budget match
the now authorized, right? We rounded up.
We made it match the votes.
We didn't authorize just to the estimate. We authorized to the full 7.2, which was a little bit more above our estimate. Got it.
That's correct. And we dumped that extra money into construction contingency as a place to put that. So
thanks for the clarification.
It's like $230,000 is what the difference was. So something to that extent. Okay. Any other questions? So we'll get into the pre-qualification process. So this is the report that was in your packet. Hopefully you had a minute to take a look at it. But essentially we've been working diligently as a pre-qualification committee to go through all of the statement of qualifications and evaluate them and agree on scorecards for each and every subcontractor and general contractor that put in a statement of qualifications. So just a refresher. So the pre-qualification committee is myself, Lorraine, and then Gail and Bob Connery are also on there as well. So those are the voting members of the pre-qualification committee, and that's consistent with procurement practices in Mass General Law, that you need 2 people from the owner, 1 from the architect, 1 from the OPM. And then I had a team behind me, helping to share the workload, doing a lot of the heavy lifting for reviewing documents and checking references and organizing this process and organizing all the information so that we can digest it and evaluate it and ultimately come up with a scoring matrix for all of these subs. So huge team effort, and we're happy to report that we are behind through with that process and able to come to a recommendation today. So we've had a number of meetings beginning back in end of October of last year. So we made it through essentially 7 meetings in which we met and discussed various trades. We all had our marching orders for what trades we reviewed. Everyone was welcome to review as many trades as they wanted to. I think, essentially everybody reviewed the general contractors just so that we were all knowledgeable on those packages. And then we came together as a committee and we discussed, came up with scores for each one of these and determined where they landed, whether pre-qualified or not qualified here. So that final meeting wrapped up on Monday, and then we drafted the report on Tuesday. So we're here today to review the findings. This was our process here. There was, this was all outlined in the RFQs the packages that went out to both the GC and the subcontractors. And so these were our point criterias. I won't spend too much time on it, but each section had points associated with it. So we had to score accordingly. The most weighted sections were similar project experience and project references. We want to make sure that we have subs and general contractors that have good references and that have done similar projects to ours. But there's other criteria that we looked at as well. But both the GC and subs are similar in the way that we evaluated them. The only difference is the GCs, we looked at MB, WB performance as well, and a little different look at their financial statements, but otherwise very similar process. So at the end of the day, we came up with a list.
Ian, can you make this bigger?
Yeah, this is pretty small.
Yeah, thank you.
So at the end of the day, we came up with a list of firms that passed pre-qualification and those that did not. So the threshold for passing is a minimum of 70 points. And there are certain categories in which you have to have a minimum amount of points as well for those specific categories. So if you didn't meet those points in that specific category, then it's automatic, disqualification. So the list of pre-qualified is much greater than what was disqualified. There's very few that were disqualified. And the only, the point of this exercise is to weed out companies that we don't feel are qualified, capable of taking on this particular job here at Concord. So we had 5 general contractors that put in SOQs. We qualified 4. So Agostini Bacon, Brate Builders, Fontaine Brothers, WT Rich, 4 very reputable firms. The only firm that we did not pre-qualify was CTA Construction. We just saw, you know, definitely a difference in their qualifications in relation to the other 4. So, and then I don't know if you want me to go through and name all these, but you know, there's a good pool of subcontractors that we went through for each one of these. You know, the least amount that we had for pre-qualified was the acoustical ceilings. We only have 3, which is still perfectly fine. Otherwise, we've got a good pool of subcontractors that were pre-qualified here. The elevators is an exception as well. There was just a lack of responsiveness. So there was only 1 elevator company that responded. We did go back out a second time, and it was the same company that responded a second time. So what that forces us to do is allow for an open bid process. So this will be carried in the general contractor's bid, the elevator package. And these again are only, should mention that there's 15 of these sub trades for filed sub bids. It's not every trade, but this is what's required by the state of Massachusetts for filed sub bids. So there are other trades outside of this that will be carried under the general contractor scope, such as site work and other trades, concrete.
So Ian, I think that we don't need to go through all of them unless
Yeah.
someone has a specific question that you want to ask Ian. But I'm certain if you don't have questions now, but want to ask a question about anyone, we can do that outside of this meeting, so we can move along. Matt.
How does this compare with other projects that you've been doing, and also just for others on the committee that are in the industry? Is it typical that elevators don't have enough bidders? Is that end up being an issue, or qualified bidders? And then, you know, as the total number of bidders in each category, I wonder whether, like, do we have too many in a couple of categories to evaluate the bids effectively? But just the general status of this relative to other projects.
You want me to take that? I can jump
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's what we've seen here is pretty typical of other jobs that we looked at. The elevators, we've been having issues with responsiveness on other projects as well. So it's become a known thing that elevator companies are doing this. Otherwise, yeah, I think you know, the number of subs is typical. It creates a good competitiveness for each one of the trades. So and it's a lot of familiar names on this paper for people in the industry. So
Ian, this is Peter.
Yep.
I would just add that this is actually from some of our most recent projects. The amount of bidders here is very good, and to have a good larger group, Matt, is good. Obviously, because they're all pre-qualified. The general contractors are going to choose their own list of bidders for the other trades, which include demolition of the building, all the site work, concrete work, the structural steel, the whole drywall package, the millwork package. So that's another, I don't know what the percent is on this job. I'd have to look it up, of which are these bidders and which are the other bidders. But all of those trades are going to be under the direction and bidding of the general contractor.
I agree with everything they've both said. You've got a great showing here. Some really good names of contractors. It can never hurt to have more bidders, and to have such a fairly short list of subs that weren't pre-qualified, that just limits your risk a bit. So very good showing here.
I think the elevator guys don't want to be part of the filed sub bid package. There's something going on there. There's a lot of good elevator companies and the general contractors will find them, so.
The elevator trade is always challenging. They kind of do what they want. But no concern about, getting pricing and having an elevator sub for this project.
Chris?
Following up on Peter's comment, when the general contractor is dealing with the subs for site work and so forth, does that suggest there might be more flexibility? And I think it just because of all of those numbers are pretty big ticket items as we go forward.
They will be, all the general contractors on this list have their own list of subcontractors, and many of those subcontractors are on all 4 lists. So does it give you a better chance? It's a more wide range. It does to some extent.
Don?
I had a couple things. One is thank you to the team for doing this. It is a long, hard process. So I appreciate the time that was put into it because I've been part of this and it's not exactly fun or glamorous work, but it's really important to, weed out those that aren't qualified to do the work and those who are. So thank you to the group for doing it. And I agree about the elevators. Every single project I've had recently has had similar problems with the elevators. And I think this is a good showing. You want at least 3. And if you get more, great. Like they kind of know who their competition is and they will bid competitively. So I think this is a nice mix. It looks like maybe the most we have are 6 or 7 for some of the sub bids. So that's great. That's awesome. And for what it's worth, all 4 of the DCs I am either currently working on other projects with or have worked with in the past. So that they're all in the industry and a lot of these subs as well. So I think it's a good mix and I think we're set up hopefully for some competitive bidding.
I've been working with Fontaine the past year and a half on the Millbury Shaw project, and they've done a very, very nice job.
Yeah, Breit's just finished up one of my projects. So, and I'm working with WT Rich on another. So like, it's not the same team, but it's, they're all in the industry. And for what it's worth, WT Rich does GC work and CMAR work. So back when we had all those discussions and I said, it's interesting, there's all these CMs getting into the competitive bidding. Chapter 149, that's a perfect example. They do both. So just wanted to share that, it's a good mix. This is good numbers and the elevator is a chronic issue that the industry is having.
Any other questions? If not, we'll move on to the ordering of the alternates.
Yeah, I think the only other pit stop I wanted to make here is just, formalize it.
Did we lose Ian?
The acceptance of this, trusting that we've done our due diligence here.
Ian, you just froze for a moment, so maybe you could repeat what you just said.
Yeah, so the only other pit stop I wanted to make on this was just formalizing acceptance of this report by the committee. Trusting that we've done our due diligence and pre-qualifying the right firms.
So does this require a vote to approve the pre-qualification?
Yes.
Do I hear a motion?
I move to accept the pre-qualification.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, I'll call the roll. Alexa?
Yes.
Court? Court, are you there?
Forgive me, yes.
Heather?
Yes, with many thanks to the team who did this.
Frank? I can't see Frank. So
Oh, he's saying yes. It looks like a yes vote.
Okay, no. Peter Fischela?
Yes.
Don Gorelio?
Yes.
Lori Hunter? Okay, Lori said she might be in and out.
Yeah, I was gonna say her connection, she said she's going in and out.
Matt Johnson?
Aye.
Pat Nelson, yes. Chris Popov?
Yes.
Charlie Parker?
Yes.
Matt Root?
Yes.
Steven Stashewski?
Yes.
All right, you have your approval, Ian.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank
Glad
you
to
for
have
your
that behind
work.
us.
Yeah.
So the next portion here is just the deduct alt discussion. So
Okay, can you make it bigger, Ian?
yeah, we came up with 5 deduct alternates that we pursued with the estimators. So this value that you're seeing here is a more current value than what we had shown before. So they went back at the 90% estimate, and both PM&C and AM Fogarty put new numbers to each one of these scope items. And so this is the new total. It's up from 1.8 to 2.5 with today's current costs. So that's what we're reflecting here. So this first section, we just ordered them alphabetically and put in a description, but it's essentially the athletic fields, the wood look ceilings, landscaping, outdoor classrooms, and then the stands and the corresponding values. And we thought we would note the construction phase because some of these happen in phase 1 where you're building the building and kind of completing the site, and the other one happens in phase 2 where you're demoing the existing school facility and putting in the fields and other landscaping features there. So so that was kind of the area for us to work through today. This we wanted to kind of start the conversation with some thoughts and recommendations from SMMA and Hill. If you were to ask us to order these, how would we order them, and what is the strategy that goes into this? So we thought we would give you guys a recommendation to start with, to consider. Obviously, you guys are the decision makers here, so you come to terms with what the final order is here. So the way that we approach this is we thought, if there's a smaller bid overrun, how would we deal with that? So the first things that we would put out there as an order of priority would be removing landscaping, removing the stands. And we thought that those 2 items, there's a way to procure them or fund them from a different source. Things that could be easily added back in to the project at a later date. So that was kind of some of the thought process there. One thing I did for you guys here on the right is just putting in the corresponding related max acceptable bid. So our current estimate is at 87.4 million for construction costs. If you add in the bid contingency and the $200,000 we talked about between what we had estimated and what the warrant says the budget is, it comes up to $89.6 million for a max acceptable bid. So that is actually factored in. So these numbers are above and beyond your, expending your bidding contingency. But this shows you.
So Ian, mind me just interrupting, I just want to make sure. So what you're saying here is that the bid comes in at 89,659 or under, good to go, plans and specs move. If the bid comes in at 90,037,821, you can move ahead with the project, but the landscaping comes out.
That's correct.
Okay. So make sure
that would be one
the other thing to understand here is that if you want to, it's the reason we're ranking this here. If you want to take the stands out or the athletic fields out in this process, you would also have to first remove the landscaping in the stands.
Yep.
So if you take 3, you have to have already taken 2 and 1.
Yep, that's correct. So they build off of one another. So
Ian, I'm going to stop you just to make sure everybody understands this, because I think it's really important to understand how this all works. Does anyone have any questions or that feels like they need clarification?
I wonder if you could speak to the outdoor classrooms and the difficulty with access. What's the the magnitude of that project such that access is a difficult thing for you?
I think we'll work through, or we're gonna go down, I think in order and then.
I know, but I'm trying to get the order. So I thought it was time for questions to help me get the order.
Well, I thought it would be helpful to have Ian just go through each one and what the rationale was from the professionals as to why we're choosing those. They
Alright.
chose those.
All right.
Okay, Charlie?
Yeah, we have a previous motion about ordering. I just want to make sure everybody remembers that, that ceilings would be above athletic fields and stands would be above athletic fields. That was Steve's motion.
Okay, so we have, I think we have an opportunity, Charlie, now to kind of revisit this and understand what the implications are of the order, and then we can have a discussion about that. Okay.
That's okay. Just know that you have to rescind that motion in order to change that order.
Okay.
Pat,
Yep.
just to comment on Charlie's comment there. So in the November meeting, Steve did motion to have those two items as the first two, but then in your December meeting, the language he used for his motion was very specific to include those two items and stated that the order of all of these items would be considered at a later date. So I interpreted that as overriding the original motion from November. I'm not sure how the committee felt, but I just wanted to share that.
Well, you have to rescind a motion. You have to rescind what was agreed to. That was specifically, there was a specific agreement to put it back into basic cost below the line and then to add it in as an alt deduct. And I think we should explicitly deal with that.
Steve?
Could I move to rescind the order so that we can proceed with reordering today?
Thank you, Steve.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Heather.
It
And
needs a 2/3 vote, by the way.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, let's do this. Alexa,
Yes.
Court,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Frank?
Hold on, I can't
I
see him.
can't see Frank.
Hands up. It looks like a yes.
Okay, Peter Fishalis,
Aye.
Don Grelio,
Yes.
Lori Hunter, Matt Johnson,
Aye.
Sorry, I've been cutting in and out, so I didn't hear the whole thing.
well then, so this is rescinding Steve's earlier motion to order the deduct alternates so that we can start fresh and start today.
Okay, yes.
All right, Pat Nelson, yes. Chris Popov,
Yes.
Charlie Parker,
Yes.
Matt Root,
Yes.
and Stephen Stashewski.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Thank you, Charlie, for helping us do our housekeeping. So shall we continue and hear the
Yep.
rationale?
Yep.
Steve, you and Charlie both have your hands up. If you.
All right.
Yeah, so that we talked through 1 and 2, so that picks up essentially close to $500,000 for a small bid overrun there, above and beyond your utilizing all of your bid contingency. The next one is the athletic fields, and this is a $1.6 million value. So this would allow for a very large bid overrun, and also something that could be funded or procured in an alternate way. It's in phase 2, so you've got a little more time to gather funds or procure it a different way, all the way out in 2025. So that would get you up to 91.7 million, and that's a pretty significant overrun above and beyond your bid contingency, which would allow for that. These are scenarios that we don't want to be in, by the way. We're trying to live within the current estimate or the current bid contingency. This is just an extra safety net. So number 4, outdoor classroom. So we put this one next. It has a value of $223,000. It is something that is spoken to in the ed plan as far as utilization of outdoor spaces. So it does impact the ed plan. We noted that it would be difficult to access this area for future installation. So if it's something that you take out and you want to put back in at a later date, you have to go all the way around the backside of the school. It's up against the woods. So you'd have to get equipment and materials back there. It just makes it a little more challenging to do in the future. It's not impossible, but it just makes it a little more challenging to do in the future. So that's what that note meant, Court.
Thank you.
And then the last item, wood look ceilings. This is something that we thought significantly changes the user experience to the school. This was an item that was scaled back already. So this is eliminating all of the wood look ceilings. So you're going to essentially all white ceilings with acoustical tiles throughout the entire school, which is something we just don't really see anymore. There's typically some sort of design aesthetic to ceilings that you see in every project that we do. So this we ordered last just as a last ditch resort here. If you really needed to take it out, then you could take it out, but we felt that it significantly changed the user experience. So that would get you up to $92.1 million for an acceptable bid, and then you would take all 5 of these deduct alternates. Again, a scenario that we don't want to be in. We want to live within the 87.4 or 89.6 million range.
Hey, Charlie, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just question about the outdoor classrooms. Why wouldn't we, I don't know whether this is the appropriate time to ask this question or not, but why wouldn't we put the outdoor classrooms above the athletic fields? Why wouldn't that be a smarter way to approach this, seeing as we're going to have to put more funds for the athletic fields, and the outdoor classrooms could cushion that blow?
So part of this is a bit of a strategy game, Charlie, because the athletic fields is a large number, and if you need to take alternates 1 and 2, but you didn't need 1.6 to go the next round, you needed more than 1.6, you'd be losing both the outdoor classrooms and the athletic fields. In addition to that, the athletic fields are phase 2. So if you had to take the athletic fields because you needed to get into that 1.6 window, there are opportunities that maybe by the time phase 2 starts, that there are alternate areas of funding, so you could continue to go ahead with the original scope. If we move the outdoor classrooms ahead of that, you won't be doing the outdoor classrooms. They're done in phase 1. You're not going to go back there in phase 2 and do it. So part of it is looking at when that would occur, and part of it is looking at where there might be additional resources.
Does anybody else have comments on that? Am I the only one?
Matt?
Yeah, it seems like, a lot of the logic here is the key point. If we have different strategies of how we're trying to get through this project, if we could agree on the overall strategy, then the order will probably present itself. It seems like one strategy is to avoid losing as many things as possible. And then the other strategy is to avoid the possibility of, having to ask for more money.
Still cut out, or do you?
Okay, somebody needs to mute. Cynthia?
Dean Banfield needs to mute.
Yeah. So, the idea here is to either try to find a way to, get everything in, versus try to avoid asking the town for more money. And I'm thinking about, if you're trying to avoid asking the town for more money, which is kind of where I'm at this point, since we have asked for more money already, is to take to the top the things that could be the school could go on without them. Yeah, we want them, but we could live without them. The school would still be a great school. But if you put stuff in this list toward the top that we have to have, well, then we're gonna have to ask for more money. And of course, I'm aware that there's already a warrant article on annual town meeting to ask for more money for the landscaping and the athletic fields. So I would throw those at the bottom because, okay, we have a way to get more money, but we don't want to have to ask for more money for this project. We've already asked for a ton of money. And we need to, find a way to avoid asking for more money. So we can have a project we've already described that doesn't have a wood look ceiling. We can have a project that has the outdoor classrooms being a more naturalistic outdoor classroom. And those kinds of things could go to the top. Also, the stands are great because up until now, the only way people could show their enthusiasm for the project is going and voting. But really, it's the scope of an item that having a campaign for people to have their little nameplate for having funded the stands and have that be part of the school would be a great way to engage those that are enthusiastic about this great new school.
Okay, Heather?
Well, I would put my hand up more because Charlie said, does anyone else have a comment about the outdoor classrooms? But given Matt's comments, I think I need to respond to the overall strategy. I feel that the strategy presented to us of things that we can add back in first, that as recommended by Hill and SMMA makes more sense. I think we just heard Ian say there really aren't projects that go with all white ceilings. It's institutional. It's not something we want. I think what we're looking at makes more sense. I would potentially shift around the top 3 a little, but I think those should be the top 3. And I think 4 and 5 need to stay where they are. And I think we all need to think hard about the school that we're providing to the community and making sure that it is a welcoming place and not just an institutional feeling white ceilinged box.
Well, I
Thank you,
would,
Heather. Court?
Like all our other schools.
if I might.
Whoa. No, just we've got other people have their hands up and that's been our protocol all along. So if you could just hold on to that thought. Steve?
Oh, sorry, thanks. So I like the approach of trying to find the items that can be added to the project, because that's the project we all want, I hope, at some point in the future, whether that be immediately or during the project, tail end of the project during the years. So the bleachers stand out in my mind pretty well to be at the top of the list. And then, there's debate about every other item on there. So the question I had is, what Matt was saying is ask the town for more money. And I'm trying to figure out the background on how we would actually fund fields. I know that there's a town meeting motion, I've heard this, but there's also a community fund. Could we talk about what the actual funding could potentially be for outdoor spaces in the town? Because I've heard some of that, but I haven't really wrapped my head around it. Thanks. Pat, you might be muted. I can't hear you.
Muted. Sorry. If I could just comment on that. So one of the things that we've talked about is Community Preservation Act funding. And that is something that's available for projects in town. It's for municipal projects and it's for non-municipal projects. There's a certain amount of money allocated by the state every year that the Community Preservation Committee allocates to the town. It's not a shoo-in, but it's definitely a possibility. There's, private funders have funded things like fields before. There have been aggressive field fundraising efforts made for the fields at the high school. But again, it's not a shoo-in, it's a possibility. And then there's, as Matt noted, a possible warrant before town meeting at the regular town meeting to add funding if the fields look like they're going to be cut out. And I keep saying it's not a shoo-in because for me, that's the key question is what is, there's a lot of uncertainty about getting private funding for these projects. I just want us to bear that in mind. All right, Court, you had something that you wanted to say.
Well, I appreciate Mr. Johnson's thinking. I think we want to open a school that doesn't compromise the teaching and learning. And as much as I think the ceiling is an aesthetic, I would hope that there are hundreds of aesthetics we could point to in this design. I don't think this is the aesthetic hill we need to die on. In terms of the outdoor classrooms, I continue to maintain that thousands of schools use outdoor space without having sophisticated construction, and they do it wisely and well. And we can point out very adjacent examples in districts around us. So again, I think that's one that might be much higher on the list to support the kind of logic that Mr. Johnson suggests, that of getting a school open that works. And as to stands, we've already discussed this, and we've already had some commitments within this very committee to launch the kind of fundraising that would be necessary and appropriate to get that done. And then finally, I'll note that for what it's worth, the FinCom has on their agenda tonight a look at the middle school vis-a-vis the CBA. Thank you.
Alexa?
Yeah, my question, I have a question and then, well, I guess I have two questions. Alexa, stop. I guess my first question is to you, Pat. So with respect to the CPC, would that be something that this committee, meaning the building committee, would engage with those guys on? Or would that be something if landscaping or fields got cut, that it would then be on the onus for the school committee to reach out, because then it wouldn't be would it technically be removed from the building committee scope and then sort of, I mean, for all intents and purposes, come to me? I only ask that because we've at the school committee level, I think Lori and I have been on an email or two with the CPC, but I didn't know sort of.
So
where would that go?
Yeah.
Who would be
In
responsible?
answer to your question, my stance on private fundraising or alternate fundraising to fund the project has always been, and there may be people on this committee that disagree with me, not the purview of the building committee. So if it comes out, it comes out, and we go on and we do our work to build a building. But it would have to be another entity in town that applied to the CPC for funding. And
Would
Carrie,
that
I
make
see
sense
your
for it to
hand.
be me? Or the Concord School Committee?
I could be.
I just don't want to do anything improperly, and pursue, continue to pursue something if it wouldn't be the school committee.
So Carrie, I see your hand up, and I'm wondering if you have a response to Alexa's question.
Yeah, thank you, Pat. A couple of things. So the CPC runs an annual grant process, if you will. So they start end of summer in the fall. You do have to apply. I don't really have a comment on whether or not it's the middle school building committee or the school committee or who would apply. But I think it's important to keep in mind that on an annual basis, at maximum, they have about $1.8 million, and it can't all be spent on recreation. It has to be, there are 3 different categories. So even if we were successful in getting funding for fields, it would be over multiple years. And that, and it wouldn't be 100%. It's definitely matching. So it would be very difficult for the committee to expect that fields could be funded.
That was my understanding too. I have another question, Pat, if I could still.
Yeah.
My turn. So then my next question would be with respect to the ordering of this list. So let's pretend, you know, let's think, I'm trying to do some quick math. 700,000 over. So we knock off the landscaping. That makes sense to me. And we go to fields. That's included too. Then our third item would be the athletic fields. But really at that juncture, if we were, you know, a total of, let's say 700,000 over, we really only need to scrounge up another 100 or 200,000 to make the project viable. So could you at that juncture, and I don't mean to confuse things, jump over the athletic fields and then go to the two of the smaller items? I just don't know how the process works, but it would seem a shame to me to trigger a 7-figure deduct alt if at that time all we needed was 100,000 or 200,000.
So if I may, Pat.
Yes, please do, Lorraine.
Yeah, so you have options as a committee with some buckets of money, but you don't have options when it comes to the ordering of the alternates. So once you select the order, you cannot leapfrog from one to the other. But with that said, if you needed 700 and say you needed to scrounge up the 100,000, as you said, I think this committee would be having a conversation saying, are we going, and I'm just going to go off the order they're there. Are we going to remove the athletic fields because we need 100,000, or are we going to look at our construction contingency and say that's where we're going to get the 100? This is not something that I would recommend we take as a basis, but that is a conversation we'd have to have.
So in summary, if we didn't want to erode our construction contingency and we really were just sticking to the deduct alternates, whatever order we vote on, that's the order it has to go in.
Correct.
Okay. Peter.
Hey, thanks, Pat. Just going back to the CPC, just a question as to why you would think that we wouldn't make sense for us to apply, since we are in charge of this project and trying to fund it. It would seem to me that the building committee could easily make a application, and the fact that we are trying to offset costs that for taxpayers, I think is going to be very compelling to the CPC, just as it was when we got them to fund a big amount for the athletic turf fields.
So, Peter, like I said, that's my personal point of view. It's when I look at the charter of this committee and what the task is for this committee, I don't see doing fundraising as part of the task of this committee. Now, this committee could decide that they want to take that on, and then it's who does it and how that all works within the town. If a committee that's been charged for a time limited period is awarded CPC money, I just don't know how that works. But Laura, you have your hand up, so you may have some thoughts on that.
I actually think we'd need clarification on the authority of this committee to apply. You're an advisory committee to the select board, so maybe Carrie could help clarify that over the coming imminent future here. While I have the floor, I just need to say out loud, there's ways to go at funding all three of the options except the wood ceilings, if for some reason the bids are over what we have as budget. And I take great debate with calling them just aesthetic. We've had this discussion multiple times, and it's an educational value to the children. And I just will need to put them back in the discussion. So I have no preference of order other than the ceilings being the last thing to be cut, because if they go, I'm not going to raise funds to put ceilings in the building. We could do any strategy for the other three things. So Pat, I think maybe Carrie and Gail and Bob and I can help with clarity of this committee's authority to apply for CPC funds.
Okay, but it sounds, Carrie, from your earlier comments that you didn't have a clarity on that.
Yeah, I don't, Pat, I don't know the answer right now.
All right. And regardless, somebody would have to apply for it and somebody would have to receive it. And as Carrie points out, they have limited funds and they will be getting applications from the town for other municipal projects. So it is actually a very competitive process. Not that we couldn't possibly get it. And I think it'd be a very appropriate, it qualifies as a recreation project, as with the landscaping. But it's not a shoe-in. Charlie.
Yeah, I guess, I asked this question because in the first place, because I have the same opinion here as I think Matt Johnson has expressed, that we do want to avoid coming back and asking for more money. That being the case, I think that the athletic fields, given that they're essential to the operating of a school, and probably they're the only totally essential item on that list required for an operating school, ought to be put at the bottom of that list. And the other items can be moved around, but I think what you don't want to do is cause a taking of the athletic fields. You want to do everything to avoid that. So putting athletic fields as number 5 would be a smart thing to do if the strategy is to try to avoid coming back and asking the town yet again for more money. So that's the way I would approach this. The other items, the other 4 items could be moved around, but maybe that's nitpicking. I think the issue here really is the athletic fields and avoiding the need to tap into that item for saving money.
Alexa.
Would it make sense to put a motion to reorder the list on the table then at this point so we can move forward?
I would move that we reorder the list, leave the list as is, except the athletic fields would be placed at the bottom. So
that wasn't going to be my motion, and I thought I had the floor, but
landscaping would be number 1. Stands.
So wait, Charlie, Alexa makes a good point. She has the floor right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking somebody to do a motion.
No,
no, I was actually, if the answer was yes, I was gonna make a motion.
Oh, well, that's good. I'm happy for that.
Is the
Thank you.
answer yes, Pat? That it
Yeah, I think certainly you could make a motion at this point.
I would therefore like to make a motion to reorder the list to include at number 1, landscaping, at 2, stands, at 3, outdoor classrooms, at 4, athletic fields, and at 5, the wood look ceilings.
Do I hear a second for that?
Second.
Peter Fischelis seconds. Any discussion? I like that. I'm gonna support that, Alexa. I think that Dr. Hunter makes a good point that the wood look ceilings are going to be the hardest things to put back into the project, especially given that their integration into this phase 1, but also just because that's going to be difficult to raise money for. But everything else has got some appeal to raising money. So I would support Alexa's motion. Any other discussion? All right, Alexa, can you repeat your motion?
Sure. I move that we reorder our deduct alternate list to the following order. At number 1, the landscaping. At number 2, the stands. At number 4, the outdoor classrooms. Oh, sorry. At number 3, the outdoor classrooms. At number 4, the athletic fields, and at number 5, the wood look ceiling.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, we have a second, and I will call a roll call vote. I see no one's hand.
Oh, sorry.
I see no one's hands up, except for Alexa's. And I will call a vote.
Yes.
So all in favor of Alexa's proposal for reordering in the order she just stated and what is on our screen? Alexa,
Yes.
Court,
No.
Heather,
Yes.
Frank,
I can't see. Frank, can you give us a thumbs up? Thumbs down. I think that's a no. Is that correct?
okay, we've got someone's, yeah, all right. So Frank is a no. Thumbs down on Frank.
Yes, he's nodding thumbs down. So
Okay.
Frank is a no.
All right, Peter Fishalis,
Yes.
Don Garelio,
Yes.
all right. Lori Hunter,
Yes.
Matt Johnson,
Nay.
Pat Nelson, yes. Chris Popov,
Oh,
was that a no? You got cut off.
no, that's a no, thanks.
Okay. Charlie Parker,
No.
Matt Root,
Yes.
all right. And Steven Sishesky,
Yes.
all right. So I'm gonna need some help with counting.
8-5 in favor.
8-5 in favor. So it passes. So we now have a reordering of the list. And I believe that the next step would be to accept the list. Okay, do I hear a motion?
Didn't we already,
I think that's all we
I
need.
think
to
we
do,
already
Pat.
accepted
That's
the
it.
list of items.
So that's
all that's
accepting
left
the
is
list.
ordering.
And we've accepted the order, so we're done.
Yes,
We're done.
I think
We're
so.
done. All right. Thank you, everybody. So Ian, this is what you needed in order to go out to the for bids, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, we will document this accordingly. It'll be presented this way on the bid documents. So,
Okay. All right. If there's nothing else from the committee, I will accept public comment. Do we have any public comment? Matt, I see your hand up.
Sorry, I don't know if this is the time. I just wanted to make a few small comments on the 90% set. That
Yep.
I'm going to do public comments first. That's fine.
No, why don't you go ahead and make comments on the public, on the 90% stuff.
So Lorraine, I just wanted to observe that in the 90% that was released, I do not see an airtightness metric listed in the spec. I do see the thermally broken clips at the phenolic cladding, but at the brick masonry ties, it doesn't appear that those are thermally broken. And then I don't also see any details on like lintels or brick shelves and how those are going to be thermally broken. So I guess I just wanted to raise concern. I think we've got a month until the 100% release, and I'm happy to be wrong, I guess, also about any of those observations. Those are just from my looking at the documents.
Can I just get your notes again?
Yeah, and I'm happy to send them in a separate.
So the air infiltration was listed in the commissioning spec, the exterior building commissioning spec. So I'm not sure. I'll double check it, but I was sure it was there.
Well,
Brick ties and what lintels and what was the last one?
The brick ties and the lintels I don't see. I see the thermally broken clips at the phenolic resin.
Yep. Okay.
So those look great, but I didn't see it at the other. The primary exterior cladding is the brick, and I didn't get at those locations.
Okay, I
Um,
will.
I mean, I
triple
see
check.
just on the air tightness, I see the spec and I see that I just didn't see a specific number listed as our target. It's got a bunch of X's, at least at the document in the spec that I was looking at. So
You got the estimating set, is that correct?
it's whatever Ian had
Yeah,
said.
it's the
Okay.
estimate, it was the estimating set.
Yeah, so between the estimating set and the final 90, I'll send you over the final 90s.
Super.
The estimating set we hadn't got everything from AKF,
Got it.
but I will triple check, Matt.
Okay, thank you, Lorraine.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I guess just to finish the thought, as we hurtle towards 100% release in a month, that I'm hoping to see those details in there. Thank you. Thanks, Lorraine.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, any public comment? All right, seeing none, next steps in our next meeting. Ian, you wanna?
That is a great question. So we are on the books for the next meeting in February, so February 23rd.
School vacation week.
We can move that.
I mean, maybe people can meet. I'll be away. but-
I can't.
I think we should probably move it.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's a tough week for most.
You want to push it back to March 2nd?
I think that would depend on what you all think you need from us. If March 2nd is a good cadence, then that's fine with me.
When are the bids coming in? When's the?
So the drawings, the drawings are available for the bidders on March 8th. So March 2nd would actually be good, because then you could, if there was any final questions.
Yeah, we're supposed to wrap up the bid set on February 27th. Right.
Right, but the advertisement is bids available.
Yep.
In that checking time.
Yeah, so we'll do our final checks the week of the 27th and the week of the, yeah.
Okay, so March 2nd would be our next meeting. Anybody have a problem with that? Okay, seeing none, March 2nd. This is a refreshingly different than the pace we've had for the last several months. If there's no other new business, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.